Welcome everyone to this Lean Startup Workshop. Callie has a few announcements of kind of what's going to happen for the next 3 hours.
Well, first off, I want to say congratulations for making it this far. You guys made it into the Makeathon for one, and you made it here on a Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, so we're really proud of you. And that's going to benefit you for a couple reasons. One, we have an attendance sheet going around. Where's the sheet? Someone have it right now? You have it, okay. So make sure, if you haven't signed it, make sure you get a sign. We'll have it up here at the end, so make sure you sign it, because 25% of your criteria for this Makeathon is attendance. So you already have a leg up by just coming to the session. And also, Don's an expert in Lean Canvas, so he's gonna help you do some customer discovery this week, and you guys are going to go into the Makeathon with a leg up in terms of knowing who your customer is, knowing some of the business modeling, and that's another 25% of your judging criteria. So congrats on being here. We're really proud of you. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Callie Broyle. I'm Assistant Director at the Entrepreneurship Center at Keenan Flagler. This is my colleague, Christina Herrera. Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay, she's a technical associate at Beam, and she is running the physical track. So if any of you are on the physical track, you can pick her brain during our pizza break at 6, or when we end the session at 6. So we will have pizza at the end too. But next Sunday is the actual mandatory kickoff for the Makeathon, and we'll be going through the schedule, logistics of each track, judging criteria, all that stuff next Sunday at 4 p.m. in this very same room. So you can answer all your questions then. And I'll give you a little head start. Our calendar is now live on our schedule tab under the Makeathon, so you can kind of see and like map out the schedule for the actual Makeathon week. So we have about 50 or so workshops that week. Professor Don Rose is an expert in Lean Canvas, like I said, and he's also the director of KickStart Ventures. So he's helped many students and faculty launch ventures for many years at Carolina. So we are really grateful he's here, and he's going to help you dig into Lean Canvas.
Great. Thank you. It's good to be here. We know we're between you and Super Bowl. For anybody who's real interested in football, we'll try to get you out by 6 and grab some pizza on the go and go to your Super Bowl event if you have one planned. A little bit about myself, Ph.D. in chemistry from here at UNC. Did big company stuff for a while, Hewlett-Packard and Glaxo, did some startups, got into venture capital, started teaching over at Keenan Flagler, and then came here about 10 years ago to help run this program KickStart, which was really designed to help faculty who have some intellectual property from their research get a company launched. And so we've been involved with about 75 startups since I've been here. A couple of them have gone public. But one of my side hustles is teaching both undergrads and grads in the area of Lean Startup, and I teach a course over at Keenan Flagler. I know we've seen a couple of folks here have been in that course called Startup UNC, and we're actually going to be recruiting undergrads for that course. It's typically been more of an MBA course, but it's a Lean Startup course, goes over the entire year, both semesters, starting next fall. So if you're interested in that course, let me know. But it takes a lot of the stuff that you are learning about here and really concentrates it down, so you spend some quality time figuring out who the customer is, what the problem is, how feasible is your business idea, how to take it to market, how to raise money, a lot of the nuts and bolts of getting a company launched. And so we encourage you to, if you're interested in that course, think about that for next fall. So with that, the way this is going to work is each of you should have been assigned a Google Drive folder with your name on it, your company name, or if it had a team number or something like that. And you should have in that folder two things. There should be a Lean Startup or Lean Canvas, which we're going to get to in a bit, and should also have some Lean Canvas assignments. You don't need to open it up now, but if you don't have access to that, then raise your hand. Okay. So a couple who don't have access to that is because you can't find it or you can't open it?
We can't find it.
You can't find it. So we'll...
Yeah. Okay, and then one more hand I saw. Which team is this? Different teams? Okay. What are your teams? Okay.
We'll work on that while we're having a lecture here. So you're not going to need to get to that for another 20 minutes or so, but we're going to take a break. After we do this, we'll go to some breakout rooms. You'll work as a team on the lean canvas, and then we'll come back together, have some more discussion, and then we'll break one more time, and then we'll come back, and then we'll be done. And that's kind of the way this is all going to work. Any questions before we get started? Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Lean Startup and Lean Canvas. So the idea is that a number of years ago, the way to kind of build a product, and this is whether it's a startup or whether it's a large company, was to go through this process of, I've got an idea for a product, I'll build a sort of product concept, and then I'll build a prototype to that, I'll test that prototype, an alpha, a beta test, and then I'll launch the product. And along with that was a lot of other activity that would happen, a lot of sales and marketing activity and things of that nature. But what people realized was that there was a problem with that idea, and customers didn't buy the product. And so they spent a lot of money on that product idea with very little customer input, and they spent a significant amount of resources. So somebody asked the question, is there a better way to develop products? And in fact, can we apply that same principle to startup companies? And so about 10 years ago, this kind of concept of a more lean startup that's more customer driven, and you'll hear things like design thinking, things of that nature. All of that's in the same kind of category of how do we look to the customer to help drive what product we want to build. And so that's really talking to the customer, understanding who the customer is, what the problem they're trying to solve, and then trying to tailor our product to that customer. So it's very customer centric as compared to technology centric or product centric or some other way of thinking about a startup company. Some of the principles, again, we start with the customer and what is their problem, and trying to find out what that problem is. We have to make some assumptions first about that problem. So we come up with I think the problem a customer has is X. So we make some assumptions, and we put those assumptions down. And then we try to test those assumptions. And one of the really fundamental principles of lean is this idea of get out of the building. And that means get out and go talk to people and do some interviews and try and figure out what the customer's problems are. So that's something we're going to ask you to do this next week, is we're going to ask you to put together a script, an interview script, to interview some of your customers and get some information about how they feel about this problem. Not even talking about your solution. This is one of the things that's unusual about this, is that we're not asking you to talk about how you're going to solve this problem. Step one is find out how big of a problem this is, how significant of a problem is this, and then from there, think about what your solution is, what your product or your service is going to be. And then you're going to build a prototype to test after you've validated some of those hypotheses or some of those solutions that you've come up with. Okay, and then after that, if you build a product to test, then you would iterate and learn from that testing and iterate it. And again, many of these principles came or were applied in software applications where you can test, iterate, and test, and iterate, and so on. It doesn't always apply to physical objects. But you can. We have this rapid prototyping lab here, so you can build physical objects if you want to and get some ideas without having to spend a lot of money. Okay, a lot of what I'm going to talk about comes from kind of the basis of it is this one book, and then there's a second book I'm going to talk about in more detail. But Steve Blank was one of the early fathers of Lean Startup. He claims it's the book that launches the Lean Startup revolution. Not really sure if that's the case or not, but a lot of what he has in here is very important, and he calls it the 4 steps to the epiphany. And he starts with what he calls, instead of product development, he introduces this idea of customer development. So it's not just developing a product, it's developing customers. So he starts with this idea of customer discovery, and the real question is there a problem we're solving? And then customer validation, and this is in the parlance of a lot of venture capitalists, they'll say, well, the dog eat the dog food. And so you will go out and test that and validate some of the assumptions. Come on down, we got plenty of room right in the middle. Come on down, all the way down. You can come on down. There you go. All right, so And then there's something called customer creation, where is how can I find more dogs to eat the dog food, and then company building. All right, and the idea is that you can, the first is really a discovery process, searching, and the second is executing. And we're focused really on that very first step, is customer discovery step. That's what we're going to be working on, is customer discovery, trying to discover who is our customer and what problem does our customer have. So that's going to be the main focus of today's workshop, is getting you ready for this customer discovery process. Okay, so from here on out, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is a book called Running Lean, and this Ashmaria created this thing called a lean canvas, which we'll talk about. You may have heard the word business model canvas. This is a derivative of the business model canvas that first came out. So it's very similar, but there's some minor changes to it that I think are useful for what we're going to do. And again, his ideas go back to these lean principles of state the hypothesis or solutions, and that's what we're going to do today, when you break out, is you're going to take the lean canvas and you're going to write down all your hypotheses and your solutions for what you think is about your problem and customers. So again, this lean canvas or business model canvas, and then you're going to go about doing customer interviews. First a set of problem interviews, and then a set of solution interviews. And then this all gets put into this large puzzle, and this is the lean canvas that we're going to be working on. And we're going to walk through this piece by piece in a few minutes, but this gives you an idea of all the aspects that we want you to fill in. Now, your lean canvas is going to have another layer on top of it, which is social impact. Because part of the criteria you're being graded on is what's the social impact of your venture. And so you'll see when you open up your lean canvas, there'll be a social impact as part of that. One can think about this in terms of product and market. Product is on the left. There's a solution that's trying to solve a problem. On the right, it's customers. How do you get to the customers? And so on and so forth. And right in the middle is something called a unique value proposition, which also you're going to work on tonight. And so you're going to have about 30 minutes to get a lot of this done, but I really want you to focus on just 3 or 4 of these boxes tonight before you start doing your interviews. Okay, any questions so far? All right, I've got a great idea. How many of you have ever been a middle school student? Everybody's been a middle school student. That's awesome, because that's a great audience, because I need your help in something that I'm working on called Kids Gyms. And it's important you emphasize the Z. It's kind of an 80s or 90s thing, the Kids Gyms. And the idea is I want to make kids stronger, literally. And my idea is I think middle school students need a place to get strength training. Okay? Middle school students are athletes. They need a place to have strength training. And I think that right now, the middle schools don't have good gyms, or don't have good weight rooms, or don't have good instruction. And I think that they need a place to go and do strength training. So middle school athletes especially, this is what I want them to do. Okay? That's the idea that I've got. And so we're going to walk through this idea. And we're going to do a little bit of brainstorming, and we're going to maybe leave some blanks out if we have to. But we're going to run through this and start with our problem for kids' gyms. So what problem am I trying to solve with kids' gyms? Yeah? So kids aren't active is a problem I'm trying to solve. So inactivity. Okay, what else? Yeah?
There's not a place with machines suited to their size.
So would you say that's like no access or limited access? Okay. So no access to gyms. Yep. What else? What problem am I trying to solve? Yeah?
If they can go to a gym, a lot of times they don't know how to use the equipment and get hurt.
Okay. So we'll say improper equipment, and perhaps improper instruction, right? Okay. What are the problems I'm trying to solve with kids' gyms? Yeah. Okay. So there may be an after-school option here. What's one of the advantages of strength training for student athletes? Yeah.
Better athletics.
Better athletics, okay, so they can be a better athlete. What's another reason to have strength training as a student athlete? Yeah.
Kids are growing, so might as well exercise those new growing muscles.
Okay. But what happens when I do a lot of sports and I'm not very strong? What?
Reduces the risk of injuries.
Yeah, so injuries. So I want to decrease, the problem is I want to somehow decrease injuries. Okay, so those are the problems that I think that I want to solve with kids' gyms, right? But I got to validate this. So I have to go out and talk to some people. These are the things I think that I want to solve, but I don't know yet. So I'm just hypothesizing. I've got to go out and test these assumptions and validate some of these assumptions. Okay, so that's the problem. There's also, within this problem, there's some alternatives. So what alternatives to kids' gyms would somebody pursue? Yeah?
Just using the gyms that they already have.
So middle school gyms, maybe one. What else? Yeah?
Hiring a personal trainer.
So personal trainer. What else? Yeah?
Just having the team coach kind of like do training.
So team coach maybe? Yep. Others. Planet Fitness.
Working out by themselves without a gym.
Okay. So home, let's call it homeschooling or home fitness. And then maybe like an adult gym, right? An adult gym, Planet Fitness or whatever. So those are alternatives. That's the beginning of my competition list. Okay, these are other options a customer could have to that problem. So I've got to, again, validate whether those problems are, or those alternatives exist or not. Okay, any questions so far? That's one side of this. Any questions? Okay, the other side is going to be customer. Who's my customer? Who do I think my customer is for kids' gyms? Yeah?
The parents who are paying for it.
Sure. Who else could be a customer? Yeah?
Could be the schools or the athletic organization.
Okay. So they could pay for it maybe? Yep. Who else? Yeah? Traveling sports teams? Okay. Who else? Yeah. Okay, good point. So we have the middle school, I'm going to call them student athletes for the moment, because there's probably going to be more athletes. But they are, when you think about customers, you can think about the buyer. Who's the buyer in this case, probably? Parents or maybe the schools. And then you have users. So the middle school student athlete is a user. Still an important customer, but you have to make that distinction. A distinction between who's the economic buyer in your business and who is the user? It could be the same, consumer electronics or things of that nature. The buyer and the user typically are the same. In this case, they're not, right? We could also have maybe a customer could be something like a school or maybe a YMCA. Does everybody think this is going to be a physical facility? Is it? Do we know? We don't know yet. We have an idea that we're going to bring this service, this thing, to middle school student athletes. We could be doing it at the YMCA. We could be doing it at the middle school. We could be opening our own gym. We don't know yet. We're still early in this process. We're still going through some of the validation of this. So right now we're just putting up what we think the issues are. Okay. So that brings me to solution, which I just talked about a little bit. What kind of solution could I have to solve this problem of kids, middle school students needing to have weight training? What's the solution? What are possible solutions? Again, brainstorming right now. Yep.
Instead of a physical location, you could just train adult trainers to adapt kids to adult machines.
Adapt kids what?
Adapt kids to adult machines.
Okay, so it would be a trainer in an adult gym?
Right.
Okay. So we have kind of trainers in adult gyms. Okay. What else? Yeah.
Invite trainers to the schools to teach this.
Okay. So we have the trainers in adult gyms. We have trainers in the schools. What else? Yeah, go ahead.
You could add equipment to playgrounds.
Okay. What else? Yeah.
You could rent out adult gyms for practices and just use that gym during that time.
Okay, so we can rent gyms. Maybe rent gyms after school when most parents are at work. It's a good idea. Yeah.
You can do virtual conferencing, so having a trainer be able to train multiple students but not be in the same location.
Okay. So you can make it virtual. What else? Yeah.
Providing equipment for middle school gyms or YMCAs.
Okay. So we're going to put trainers in these schools and we can put equipment. Okay. I don't have much room left. Actually, none of these were my original idea, which is great. My idea was just to build a gym, right? Build a physical facility that would be kids' gyms. But look at the other solutions we have here. This is what you need to be thinking about. This is what you need to do to brainstorm about your solution. I was locked into the idea of I'm going to build a Planet Fitness building and put equipment in it and have trainers train middle school students. Why is that? Why could that be a bad idea? Yeah.
Building your own gym at every possible location that could be accessible to middle school kids might be really costly and a lot on you.
Right. And middle school students are in school most of the day, right? And have homework at night. And so their availability for that gym is probably how many hours a day? 2? So it sits empty the rest of the time? Not a good idea. At least I don't know. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me, but that was my original idea. And you guys have come up with alternatives I think are great. Virtual gym, trainers, put equipment into middle schools, along with the programs, things like that. Okay, so these are the solutions. Customer segment, we talked about that. And the unique value proposition is, and I put a template in your document that looks something like this. Your company is what's the key innovation for a customer segment who wants a key benefit or outcome. Unlike current competition, our product provides some key differentiation. Okay? And so for kids' gyms, I'm still on this idea of facility. I haven't given up yet. I think it could be a good idea. But my kids' gyms is the first ever strength training facility for middle school student athletes who want to improve their athletic performance and reduce injury. Unlike adult gyms or middle school weight rooms, the Kids Gyms program is tailored to the needs of middle school students whose body is constantly growing and changing. Is that clear? What I want to do? Is that clear, the kind of value that I want to deliver in my product? This is what you need to come up with. And I gave you a template so you can fill in some blanks. But this is the idea, is you want to come up with some very clear statement that what is your unique, in other words, no one else has it, value proposition. What value are you delivering to the customer that's better, cheaper, or faster than the competition? Any questions about that? Okay, so the solution, we walked through that a little bit. Top 3 features, and we just kind of brainstormed about our solution, but what you want to really hone in on a solution and come up with some of the top features of that solution. And then channels. Channels are how you're going to get to the customer. Now, this is a building process. If I don't have a clear idea of my solution, my channels may not be clear. So let's just say, for the moment, let's stick with the idea that I'm going to build, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to have a solution that states my value proposition. And my channel is how I get to the customer. How would you get to my customer? And we're going to assume my customer for the moment is the parents. How am I going to get to those parents? Yeah?
Put up flyers in the middle school.
Okay, flyers. And you're hoping the middle school student is going to go and bring that flyer home to their parents?
Or when the parent comes in to pick them up. Or
yeah, they also have flyers that are electronic flyers. Yeah, what do they call it? Peach Bowl or some name they have for all the electronic stuff. So yeah, flyers, one way to get to the parents. How else would I get to the parents? Yeah?
Contacting point people like coaches.
Yeah? Sure, coaches would be a great way to get it. How else? Yeah?
You could give out free like sweatbands or wristbands to the kids with the advertising.
Yeah, that's great. They call that trash and trinkets, or we'll call it, what do you want to call it? Bracelets, tokens? Bracelets. What would kids' gyms do? Okay, so those are the channels. I mean, we can go through other ways to get to the customer, but the idea is, how are you going to find these customers, and how are you going to get your word to them, and how are you going to acquire those customers? And that's what the channels are all about. So we've gone through a bunch of these already, and we have a few more to fill out, and then we're going to let you go. So the bottom section here is kind of the viability of the business, where you're going to look at the possible revenue streams and the possible costs associated with your business. And so on the revenue streams, you're going to have to take some assumptions. Again, all of these are assumptions. I'm just assuming some things. So my revenue stream has some assumptions about my pricing of what I want to charge, has some assumptions about how many customers I'm going to get. And so you're going to need to do some back of the envelope ideas. So let's just take a swag at this. So how much a month should I charge for a kids' gym's subscription, assuming I've got some facility? Maybe it's in the middle school, maybe it's a YMCA, maybe it's a standalone facility. How much a month would you pay for that? $9.99. Seems like not very much money for me. All right, $10 a month. I'm gonna make the math easier. Okay, and how many kids do you think I can get in each month to come to sign up for this subscription? And this is per month, right? $120 a year. And how many parents you think would sign up for this initially in Chapel Hill where we're opening our first world premiere, first ever kids gyms. 200 parents? Same reason? I don't know. 200 parents? 200 subscriptions. What's that? $2,000 a month, right? Total back of the envelope, no idea if it's right, but I'm gonna have to test this. I'm gonna go out and talk to some customers and say, how does $10 a month sound for this exclusive access to the first ever kids gyms in Chapel Hill, right? Now, what that means is, I've got $2,000 a month, somehow I've got to figure out my costs, and guess what, in the world of business, what does this number need to be? About $2,000, right? It can't be a lot more than that, otherwise what? I'm losing money. So what kind of cost am I going to have on the cost side of the equation? Yep.
Purchase of equipment.
So equipment. Now, anybody who's in the capital equipment business, you don't have to purchase all this immediately. You can get a loan for it. And so you have to have, it'll be really equipment loan payment, really. That's what your cost is. Oops, payment. What else? Yep. So I got some rent. What else? Yeah.
All the insurance.
Insurance. What else? Yeah.
Training expense.
What's that?
Management expense.
Management? So like wages? I've got to pay somebody to do the training, to pay myself, right? And so I have wages of some sort. So you're going to need to go through all this and figure out, does this balance that? How close am I? Just ballpark. That's kind of the basis. That's why it's on the bottom of this thing, is because it's the thing that is really drives the business. So a lot of other things. So we talk about pricing and revenue. Revenue is just this number here. Some people call it sales. Similar term, really. You'll hear it both ways. Lifetime value of customer, we're not going to talk about gross margin. We won't get into that today, just for lack of time. Cost structure, there are a lot of things here. We talked about a few of these. We're not going to go into things, but just what I would think about on revenue streams is, this is just the revenue for subscriptions. Maybe I've got some advertisements in the gym. Maybe I've got some other ways of getting revenue in. So think about multiple streams as you're thinking about the streams coming in. All right. And again, we're looking at kind of a break-even analysis where your revenue equals cost. You're not going to get to this tonight, obviously, but these are the things you need to be thinking about as you're thinking about your business. And the key metrics. What will be my key metric for kids' gyms? Yeah?
Number of memberships.
Number of memberships, that's a great metric. What will be another metric I would want? Yeah?
Number of middle school athlete injuries.
Yeah, so if I could prove that, if I did a little study, maybe I contacted folks here at UNC and said, let's do a little study and find out whether my kids' gyms helped kids reduce injuries. That'd be great. Yeah.
Satisfaction of the customers.
Sure, satisfaction. Yep.
Amount of time spent, that kids spend.
Yeah. How about renewal rate? That'd be a big one, wouldn't it? I go out and make a big splash, all these people sign up, and then they don't sign up again. They cancel the subscription after 2 months or after a year or whatever. I was a Planet Fitness member for 1 year. All right, so those are key metrics. Unfair advantage, again, this is kind of one of the last things you would ever fill in. If you have something like intellectual property, some unique knowledge of the marketplace, you have a great location, things of that nature. Social impact, so this is the other part that you're going to be adding to this that is in your, what's your reason for doing this venture? Clearly defined in terms of social or environmental problems you want to solve. What is the intended social and environmental impact of your venture? So for kids' gyms, what's my social impact? Yeah.
You're making kids stronger and probably healthier too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think social impact is getting kids more active, perhaps. Having them injured less means they're going to be more active in general because they're not sitting around injured. So that'd be my quick social impact statement. All righty, I think we're close to, okay, so I'm not sure where you're going to go, but you're going to tell us in a second. And when we tell you where to go, we're going to take you into 2 groups or 1 group?
We have 3 classrooms available, so they can spread out 1 or 3.
Okay. Do you want to write the numbers are and tell them where to go?
It's right out here.
It's right around this corner, right in this hallway.
So we've got the other classrooms on this floor reserved, so you all can spread out between them. Just all 4 of these rooms. I can help guide people.
Yeah, we'll be standing out in the hallway to point. There's only a few classrooms out here, and we have all of them.
So I'll be circulating a room through. What your assignment is, you've got about 30 minutes to go through the lean canvas and the exercise that's in the lean canvas exercise assignment, which really is the only thing that's in that assignment list is filling out your unique value proposition. There's a template in there. But I would start with problem, customer, and solution. Those are the 3 you want to focus on first. And then from there, I'll probably work on the social impact because that's going to be a part of your judging criteria. And whatever else you can get done in 30 minutes, that'd be great. And I'll be walking through to answer any questions. Okay? See you in 30 minutes.
If anyone doesn't have access to those sheets, come see me so I can
Yeah, if you need access to those sheets, come see Callie right here.
Also, I have an attendance sheet if anyone hasn't signed in yet.
Sign in if you haven't signed in.